When destiny knocks on a Scorpio's door, it doesn't knock. It breaks through. There are no warnings when destiny arrives. It doesn't send a text. It doesn't knock politely. It breaks through the walls you built to survive. And Scorpio, it's coming for you, not with chaos, but with clarity so sharp, so blinding, you'll feel it in your teeth. You think tomorrow is just another day? It's not. Tomorrow is the moment the universe cashes in on every storm you've survived, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every tear you swallowed while smiling. You feel it, don't you? The pressure building behind your ribs, the silence that isn't peaceful. It's charged. It's the breath before lightning hits. That's not anxiety. That's the sound of your soul rearranging itself to make room for what's coming. Scorpio, you didn't crawl through fire just to stay invisible. You didn't resurrect yourself a dozen times just to live a life that doesn't feel like yours. No, you are standing at the edge of a gateway. So powerful, so precise. It only opens once a decade. And it only opens for the one who is ready to remember who they are. This message isn't for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for those who fear their own greatness. It's for you, the one who kept going when it made no sense. The one who kept believing when there was no proof. The one whose pain was sacred, because it prepared them to hold power without abusing it. Say it with me in the comments. I am the storm. I am the silence. I am finally ready. Because Scorpio, this is your moment. Not to chase fate, but to finally let it catch you. And if your heart is pounding, that's not fear. That's your soul remembering its throne. Let's begin. Part 1: The Inner Tremor. The moment your soul starts to shake before destiny strikes. There is a specific kind of silence that only a Scorpio can recognize. The kind that doesn't soothe you. It charges the air. It crackles like a storm brewing beneath your skin. And lately you've been feeling it. Not sadness, not anxiety, but something else. Something ancient and unnamed. That tightness in your chest? That flicker of emotion that comes out of nowhere and leaves just as fast? That's not random. That is the first tremor of a soul about to be called into its highest form. Scorpio, before destiny erupts into your life like a tidal wave of divine fire, your soul always trembles. Why? Because somewhere inside you, you've known this moment was coming, maybe not in words, but in sensation, in dreams that felt too vivid, in people suddenly disappearing, in that odd feeling that your life is rearranging itself, even when nothing on the outside looks different. This is how it begins. Always. The universe doesn't shout at Scorpio. It whispers. And when it does, your bones listen. You've been here before, haven't you? On the edge of something. That moment before a great loss, or a great revelation, where you sensed the shift hours, days, even weeks before it happened. And yet you said nothing. You stayed quiet, because no one would have believed you anyway. But this time it's different. This time, the tremor is not a warning of what will be taken. It's the announcement of what's about to be given. And it's big. So big your body almost doesn't know how to receive it. You were forged in a world that taught you to brace for impact. But what if this time, Scorpio, the impact is a blessing? What if the force you feel approaching is not here to destroy, but to crown? You've worn your trauma like armor for years. And now that armor is starting to crack. Not because you're breaking, but because you're expanding. And when your old self can no longer contain your future, you begin to tremble. So don't run from the feeling. Don't numb it. Don't dismiss it as just a mood. Honor it, because that trembling is your soul's way of saying, I'm almost there. And if you feel this inner quake rising in you now, go to the comments and write this vow to the universe. I am not afraid of the shaking. I know it means the earth is making room for something sacred. Stay close, Scorpio, because in part 2, we step into the silence that shaped you and reveal how it's always been preparing you to hold the light that's coming. Part 2: The Silence Before the Storm. Why Scorpio was chosen to carry the dark. Before the light breaks in, there is silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that rattles your soul. The kind where everything looks fine on the outside, but inside you're holding back a tidal wave of emotion. Scorpio knows this silence intimately. You were raised by it, shaped by it. You survived in it. And now, you've mastered it. You became the child who didn't speak unless spoken to, the teenager who saw too much and said too little, the adult who learned how to carry the weight of everyone else's chaos, while silently drowning in your own. But here's the truth no one dared to tell you. You were never weak for going quiet. You were protecting something sacred, your power. You see, Scorpio, not everyone is chosen to walk with the dark. Not everyone has the soul depth to stare into the abyss and not run from it, but you do. And that's why life gave you the shadows first. That's why you were abandoned, betrayed, left to figure things out on your own. Because the silence you've endured wasn't a punishment. It was a training ground, a sacred preparation for a light so powerful. It had to be protected in total darkness until the moment your soul could handle it. And now, that silence is ending. But before it leaves you, you must understand it. You must honor the part of you that kept breathing when no one noticed you were suffocating. Because the old you, the quiet, invisible survivor, is the reason the new you can rise. The you who no longer needs to hide. The you who doesn't beg to be chosen. Because you finally remember, you've always been the one who chooses. So Scorpio, if you feel the silence getting louder, if your soul is starting to ache for more, it's not because something is wrong. It's because you've outgrown the darkness that kept you safe. Go to the comments now and affirm this truth. I was never afraid of the dark. I was learning how to hold the light. Because in part 3, the light arrives. And it doesn't knock politely. It explodes. Part 3, when the light strikes. The moment you realize it's all coming back to you. There's something terrifying about getting everything you once begged for. It's not the power itself that shakes you. It's the recognition that you were always worthy of it. Scorpio, you've spent years walking through shadows, whispering silent prayers into the void, telling yourself you were strong enough to survive without the light. But the truth is, you always hoped it would find you. And now, it has. First, it feels like too much. Like standing beneath a waterfall that was once a trickle, and suddenly realizing it was never the world that was withholding. It was you. You didn't feel ready. You didn't feel worthy. You thought power was something you had to earn through pain. So you became a master of not needing, of clapping for others, of hiding your hunger in "I'm fine." But Scorpio, you weren't born to survive lightless. You were born to burn with it. And when the light of destiny finally touches you, when the blessings start pouring in like they were always meant to, it doesn't feel like joy at first. Feels like grief. Because you begin to realize just how long you've kept yourself small, so no one else would feel uncomfortable. You remember the dreams you shelved, the versions of you that never got a chance to live, the silent victories you never celebrated. But here's the shift. That grief becomes fuel. Because this time, Scorpio, the light isn't passing you by. It's landing. And it's landing hard. Astrologically, this moment is no accident. The conjunction of Jupiter, planet of expansion, and Pluto, your ruler, planet of transformation, creates a once-in-a-decade vortex, where everything you planted in the dark begins to bloom in the light. Every private battle, every selfless act, every tear you turned into fuel, it was not forgotten, it was recorded by the only force that ever mattered, the divine timeline. And now the universe is catching up to your soul. So don't look away. Don't downplay it. Don't say, "I don't deserve this." You do. You always did. You just needed to become someone who could finally hold it without guilt. So go to the comments now and write, "I do not fear the light anymore. I'm ready to receive what's mine." Because in part 4, we confront the hidden reason why you spent so long doubting your own magic, and why someone from your past is terrified that your power is finally waking up. Part 4, the return of the hidden saboteur. The moment you remember who tried to dim your light. Scorpio, there was a time, maybe years ago, maybe lifetimes, when someone looked at your power and flinched. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was real. And instead of celebrating it, they tried to control it, shame it, shrink it. They saw your raw, radiant potential and whispered things like, "Don't be too much. You're too intense. Tone it down. Be easier to love." And you, still forming, still open, still hopeful, believed them. You told yourself, if I shine too bright, they'll leave. If I succeed too much, I'll be alone. If I speak my truth, I'll be punished for it. And so you dimmed, little by little, until you became an echo of yourself, just enough to be palatable, just enough to be safe. But here's the truth Scorpio has always known. You were never meant to be safe. You were meant to be sovereign. And now, as your light begins to return, unapologetic, undeniable, the ones who once tried to extinguish it are starting to feel the heat. That's why they might be watching you now, not in admiration, in fear, because somewhere deep down, they know. You remember how you silenced yourself for their comfort. You remember how you accepted crumbs and called it enough. You remember how you turned your fire into smoke, just so they wouldn't choke on their own insecurities. But not anymore. This is the moment you stop apologizing for being powerful. This is the moment you look in the mirror and no longer see the version of you they wanted, but the one you were always meant to become. And if that makes them uncomfortable, let them squirm, because your light isn't here to hurt them. It's here to heal you. So Scorpio, if this truth is rising in your chest, if you feel yourself remembering the moment you stopped believing in your own magic, go to the comments now and write, I forgive myself for dimming, but I will never dim again. Because in part 5, destiny sends someone unexpected, a person who doesn't fear your fire, but has been searching for it their whole life. Part 5, the karmic reunion. When the soul you've been waiting for finally arrives. Not every connection is built in this lifetime. Some are forged across centuries, carved into stardust, written into the bones of time. And Scorpio, yours is arriving now. But here's what no one tells you. Karmic reunions don't come when you're broken. They come when you've healed just enough to finally stop hiding. That's why it took this long. Because this soul, this person who's about to enter or re-enter your life, they're not coming to save you. They're coming to stand beside you, as an equal, as a mirror, as a soul that doesn't fear your fire, but recognizes it as familiar. You'll feel it instantly, not in your head, but in your gut, in your chest, in that unshakable inner stillness that whispers, oh, it's you. It might be someone entirely new. It might be a face from the past that never made sense until now. But whoever they are, they won't be confused by your depth. They won't flinch at your honesty. They won't try to dilute your intensity to make themselves feel bigger, because they've been walking through their own fire. And when two souls who have both survived their storms meet at the same shoreline, the world shifts. This is not the fantasy you once begged for. It's better, because this time you don't need them to complete you. You are already whole. And that's exactly why they can arrive now, because you're no longer vibrating from desperation. You're vibrating from alignment. And when their eyes find yours, you won't need to explain anything. They'll already know, because they were sent not to heal you, but to walk with the healed version of you. So Scorpio, if your soul is stirring, if something in you knows this isn't just a hope, but a cosmic inevitability, go to the comments and write, I am ready to meet the soul who sees me and stays. Because in part 6, you finally take your place not beside someone else's throne, but upon your own. Part 6, the crowning moment. When Scorpio finally takes their throne, power doesn't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes in a quiet breath, a still moment, a knowing glance at the mirror, when you finally recognize what you've always been. Scorpio, you've spent so long being the one behind the scenes, the strategist, the silent strength, the one who held space for everyone else's light, while dimming your own, not because you lacked brilliance, but because you thought the world wasn't ready for it, or worse, that you weren't allowed to shine. But something has changed. You feel it, don't you? The grief has burned itself clean. The armor is too heavy now, and the silence you once wore like a shield has become suffocating. You're not surviving anymore. You're not hiding. You're rising. And this time, you're not asking permission. Because here's the truth the world never told you. You were never meant to serve someone else's crown. You were always meant to wear your own. This is the crowning moment. Not a coronation granted by others, but a return to sovereignty chosen by you. And it doesn't come with applause. Comes with peace. The kind of peace that comes only when you stop betraying yourself to belong where you no longer fit. You're not too intense. You're precise. You're not too much. You're exact. You're not hard to love. You're hard to fool. And finally, you're done shrinking to make others comfortable. This is the moment you take your throne, not because they gave it to you, but because you built it, with every heartbreak, every silence, every scar. So Scorpio, if your soul is standing taller right now, go to the comments and claim this moment. I don't need a crown to know I'm royal, but I'll wear one anyway because I've earned it. Because in part 7, you will face the moment where the past tries one last time to pull you back into survival, and you'll finally say no. Part 7, breaking the pattern. When Scorpio finally says, no more, it always happens right before the breakthrough. The old pattern comes back and knocks on your door, like an old lover whispering, don't you miss me? Scorpio, you know this moment, that edge of the cliff feeling, right when everything begins to shift. Something inside you says, run, retreat, go back to what's familiar, even if what's familiar has always hurt you, because comfort, even in pain, can feel safer than power, especially when you've worn your wounds like armor for so long. You forgot how to breathe without bleeding. You were taught to endure, to keep quiet, to play small, to give without asking, to stay, even when it was killing you. But Scorpio, you're not that version anymore. The one who over-explains to be understood. The one who keeps toxic peace to avoid conflict. The one who betrays their own needs just to keep someone else comfortable. That version of you was built in survival, but you're not surviving now. You're awakening, and awakenings aren't soft. They're brutal. They tear through your illusions. They force you to confront every time you chose fear over truth. Every moment you said, I'm fine, when you were falling apart inside. But here's the shift. You no longer need that pattern. You've outgrown it. And in this moment, you finally say what your soul has been waiting lifetimes to hear. No more. No more shrinking. No more silence. No more saving everyone but yourself. The most dangerous thing you can do now is pretend to be who you used to be. Because Scorpio, that skin doesn't fit you anymore. So if you feel the past clawing at your door, trying to lure you back into a smaller self, go to the comments now and write, I am no longer loyal to my pain. I am loyal to my rebirth. Because in part 8, you will step into the day that changes everything. Not with fanfare, but with a quiet thunder only your soul can hear. Part 8, the day the earth stood still. When the universe quietly resets your life, there are days that look just like any other. You wake up, drink your coffee, check your phone, and yet, something inside you whispers, the earth just shifted. Not in the sky, not on the news, but deep within the lining of your soul. Scorpio, this is that day. No fireworks, no grand announcement, just an unshakable stillness, like the air itself is listening, like the stars paused mid-spin, like the universe is holding its breath, to witness you quietly, finally, cross a threshold you'll never return from. And it doesn't feel like victory, feels like stillness, because when karma finishes its cycle, when your soul graduates from an old version of itself, the loudest sound is silence. You won't know what exactly changed, only that something did. Now, nothing feels the same. You'll look at old messages and feel nothing. You'll revisit memories that once wrecked you and feel a soft, distant compassion. You'll stand in places that once held you hostage and realize they no longer have the power to define you. That's how you know the reset has occurred. Not because the world applauded, but because the wound stopped screaming. The earth didn't stop spinning. You did. Long enough to realize you're not chasing anymore. You're not proving anymore. You're not waiting anymore. You are simply here. And here is enough. So if you're reading this and your chest is rising slower, your breath deeper, your mind quieter, honor that. This is the moment your soul has been training for. This is the first true breath of your new life. Go to the comments and write, I don't need a sign. I am the sign. The reset has already begun. Because in part 9, we'll uncover the deepest truth of all, that what you've been seeking in others was never missing. It was you all along. Part 9, the final realization. You were always the one you were waiting for. There comes a moment on every soul's journey when the search ends, not because you found them, not because you found it, but because for the first time, you found yourself. Scorpio, you've spent lifetimes waiting for the sign, the person, the permission, the breakthrough, the moment that would finally prove you were enough. But now, after all the storms, the silence, the shedding, a truth rises from within you, gentle but thunderous. I was never missing. I was just buried beneath expectations, buried beneath survival, buried beneath roles you had to play, to keep the peace, to avoid abandonment, to be loved in a world that only understands masks. And yet, through it all, a version of you never gave up. That version never forgot the fire, never forgot the vision, never forgot the sound of your own soul, calling you home. And now finally, you hear it clearly. There's no more proving, no more chasing, no more waiting for someone else to see you. Because you see you. You see the strength it took to stay soft. You see the wisdom behind your wounds. You see the royalty in your reflection. And in that seeing, you return to your throne, to your truth, to your deepest, most undiluted self. It was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. So if this realization is shaking you, if your heart feels both broken open and finally whole, go to the comments now and write, I am the one I've been waiting for, and I have finally arrived. Because in part 10, you will walk through the final gate, not to find your purpose, but to live it, as the sovereign soul you've always been. Part 10, the sovereign soul. You no longer chase destiny, you embody it. You used to chase. You used to reach. You used to ache for something beyond the horizon, believing destiny was always somewhere just out of view. But now, you realize it was never out there. It was never waiting at the end of some long, painful road. It was always within you, quiet, powerful, patient. Scorpio, you are no longer the seeker. You are no longer the warrior in waiting. You are no longer the one who begs for signs from the sky, because you have become the sky. The shift has happened, not with explosions, but with sovereignty. That unshakable sense that your power no longer needs to be explained, proved, or earned. Simply is. You are. No more shrinking to fit into broken systems. No more handing over your worth to those who can't recognize it. No more delaying your joy, waiting for the world to give you permission to live fully. You have arrived, not as someone new, but as the most undiluted, unapologetic version of who you've always been. The Scorpio who knows that stillness is not weakness, it's mastery. That solitude is not loneliness, it's sovereignty. That intensity is not too much. It's the exact frequency required to burn through illusion and reveal the truth. You no longer chase destiny. You embody it. In your voice, in your presence, in the way you walk through the world. No longer seeking to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. And this, right here, is your true beginning. So if your chest is rising with pride, if your soul feels soft and strong all at once, go to the comments and write your final vow. I am not afraid of tomorrow. I am the proof of power. I have returned. Because Scorpio, you are not just a survivor. You are not just a phoenix. You are not just a mystery. You are the light that walked through fire and remembered it was divine all along. Welcome home. If this journey has stirred something ancient inside you, if you feel seen, understood, and remembered, then don't let it stop here. Comment below with the declaration that moved your soul the most. Let the universe witness your vow. Share this message with another Scorpio who needs to remember their power. And if you're walking this path of awakening, truth, and sacred fire, subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom. This is not just a channel. It's a sanctuary for souls who remember. Guys, here, you don't just watch astrology, you live it. Scorpio, you were never made for the shallow end of life. You were born from depth, forged in fire, and chosen to walk the thin line between death and destiny, so others could find the courage to rise. This has not been a prediction. This has been a soul remembering, a divine reminder that you don't need to be rescued. You only need to reclaim what has always been yours. So when tomorrow arrives, and the air feels different, and your heartbeat says, something is coming, don't run, don't hide, stand still, and let it find you, because what's coming was always written in the stars, but only now is your soul finally ready to receive it.